happen, you know. But when the mountains, you're awful glad to have a horse, because trying to get around the mountains, hoofing it the whole time, especially if you get an elk, trying to get an elk out of the mountains. I carried a quarter of an elk out of the mountains one time, and it like ripped the muscles in my chest. I couldn't hardly get my shirt on for a week. But anyway, we got up early the next morning, got on these horses, and I'm bone tired, and I can, you know, I'm just barely awake, and we're riding up, and I don't know, horses to me are kind of ornery sometimes, and these are ornery horses, you know, and I don't know what the horse in front of me ate the night before, but it was bad, and, you know, I'm like, oh, and my horse couldn't take it either. It was trying to bite the hind end of this other horse, you know. And then this horse is trying to kick it, and so I'm trying to stay on this horse. And I said, boy, isn't hunting fun, you know? And so I'm just kind of enduring, and it's just sometimes I'm on hunts and I feel like it's not off to a good start, and I just felt like things were just not off to a good start. And so as I'm enduring this horse ride up the mountain, and I'm thinking of it, in fact, I'm just trying to keep from getting bucked off. And one of the things about horses, they don't like you on them. They really don't. I mean, they endure you, and you can develop a close relationship. I know people have great relationships with their horses. I've never figured out how to have one. I'm just trying to have a good one with my wife, you know, and much less a horse. I got to keep my objective simple, you know. But horses would like to, when they go around a corner, they like to smack your leg against a tree and, you know, all this stuff. So anyway, I've ridden horses enough to know kind of how to handle them, but so we get, as the sun's coming up, we get to the top of this mountain peak, and we tie off the horses, and instantly I was so glad I was there, because it was a magnificent sunrise. And how many have been to the top of a mountain peak? And it's just so awe-inspiring. And have you ever taken a photo, and oh, this is awesome, and you take a photo, and now, of course, you get the digital camera so you can see it right away. But does it do it justice? No. It's like so. I almost get to the point where I don't even want to take a picture because it's so vivid in my mind. That's the best way for me to remember it. Well, this is one of those experiences where it's a cool, crisp, clear, early fall in Colorado, and the sun was coming up. And honestly, it was just like I was just soaking it in. It was so awe-inspiring. I was just kind of mesmerized by it. And I had a guide, and he's doing this good guide thing, you know, got his binoculars, looking around, and I'm just kind of, wow, this is amazing. This is gorgeous up here. This is, I'm just daydreaming. My mind's just wandering, and all of a sudden I look down the mountain a little ways, and I see horns, and I said, hey, what's that? Gives his binoculars. I said, that's a bull. Get your boots off. Okay. So I go over and sit on a rock, and I get my boots off, and he says, okay, here's what you're going to do. This bull elk was feeding, but he was quartering up the mountain. So he's kind of going along, but he's quartering up. He says, when he and we're at the top, so it wasn't a lot of cover there. And it was just a couple little bushes and trees and stuff, but it was quite open, so I didn't know how in the world this is going to work out. Because as a whitetail hunter, I've done a lot of still hunting with my bow, sneaking through the woods, but on elk, I didn't know there's no cover. So he said, get your boots off, and when he puts his head down, you just sneak up and get as close as you can. While feeding elk, frankly, just walking, because of his long legs, is really hard to keep up with. And I've been on several shows, TV shows, outdoor shows. I'm kind of glad that this one wasn't, because I don't think it was a pretty sight. Because as this elk is feeding, I'd scamper in my shoes, and then he'd put his head up, and there's no cover, so I did my best impression of a tree. You know, I put the bow in front of me, and I try to make like a tree, you know. And so, for whatever reason, it must have worked, because the elk just seemed to think, oh, just another weird tree, you know, or something, I don't know. So this kept going on, and I keep scampering up, and then he'd stop, and I'd put my bow in front of me and try to not make eye contact. And finally, he got about even with me, and it was just about to go over the top of the rise. And I tried my best to get as close as I could, but it looked like it was about 40 yards away, and that's got him about at the end of my range with the bow and arrow. It's a very short range weapon. So I pull back, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I should shoot. It's about the end of my range. I look back at the guy and he goes, oh, okay. So I put the pin where I think I should. I pull the trigger. There it goes. Because the 40 yards is a pretty good shot. You know, it's got a little arc to it. It looked perfect. And you know what that elk did? He ran right at me. He said, I mean, a horn. You seen elk horns? And they're coming at you. And I thought, can't we be friends? I'm backing up. I'm trying to look for an arrow. Can't we be friends? He gets about here to the flag, and he stops. I'm still fumbling around. And all of a sudden, he looks around. I told you I was boss. So the guy says, well, let's just give him a couple minutes, you know. He's got to use it. Let's give him a couple minutes. Let's just sit on this ledge right here. And I said, well, it's right there, you know. He said, no, just give him a couple minutes. And so, okay, I'm sitting on this rock ledge, and I look at my watch. Again, I'm used to bull hunting and going and spending a week hoping to get something. And I realize it's been 40 minutes since I got off the horse. And I'm disappointed. I just had a nice pull out. My hunt's over with. Now what? I'm hyper. What am I going to do? You know, I didn't have any other tags, mule deer tags, and I didn't. You know what? The worst part about it is I didn't have a chance to hardly get excited. And so I'm just disappointed. I'm looking at my watch, and I look over at my guide who's sitting right next to me, and he's a smoker, and he had lit up. And so I look over at him, and he's trying to smoke. But he's going. I go, dude, I shot the bull, and you got the bull fever. What's going on here, man? How many know what buck fever is, okay? You know, it shakes. And I couldn't believe it. I said, well, you're an awesome guy. You get the shakes for me. That's pretty good. So that's my 40-minute elk story. And speaking of getting the shakes, I want to tell you a story about the time I got the worst shakes. I can't say it's buck fever because it was bear hunting. But the worst shakes I've ever gotten has been bear hunting. Let me tell you the story. I've been to, for many years I went to Ontario bear hunting because it was nice spring hunt, you know. It was helped break up the season. And I've hunted many animals, and I've gotten many animals with a bow. I've gotten whitetail, mule deer, antelope, bear, caribou. I'm trying to think of what I have. Mule deer. Haven't gotten a moose yet. I haven't gotten a grizzly yet. I've been thinking I got an offer to go grizzly bear hunting, but I have to find a lot. I want to make sure I hunt with a guide who's slower than me, and a really good shot. But anyway, so one of the things I found about bear hunting is I've hunted a lot of animals, and black bear are the quietest, stealthiest animal in the woods. They have these big paws, and they're so quiet. I can hear other animals coming. I can hear deer. Caribou, you can really hear them because they got in your knees. It's got this clicking noise. It sounds like a train coming when you ever heard of them coming. But I have found that a black bear can come in so quietly that if you're not paying attention, you would never know they were there. And actually, a lot of people think way I've hunted them in Canada is you put out bait and you try to get the bear to come into that bait and you shoot the bear over bait. Well, some people think you put out donuts and Boo Boo comes wandering in and you shoot him. Well, it's not that way. In fact, what I found is that bear, they can't see that well, but they can hear incredibly well, and they've got an unbelievable nose. And I actually hunted for 5 or 6 years before I got my first bear with a bow. If I had a gun, I would have been able to get one earlier because I'd see them, but they weren't close enough for a bow range. But what they would do is they circle all around you. And if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even know they were there. You just get a glimpse, and maybe you just see a shadow of a bear, and then he was gone. Because if they get any smell of you, if you hear anything, sometimes they would come in, but if they just heard the slightest noise, they'd be out of there. And let me tell you something, a bear does not run slow, and they actually climb trees very well. And by this time, though, I